KYOS Merced.
Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm Roger Wood, our host, your host, and our guest for this segment is Steve NEWVINE, and he has been on our show a few times, does some interesting writing here in our area, plus some books that he's written, and he's going to talk about an event out at the Merced County Fairgrounds, and unless you drove by, you didn't know about it, but you missed a great big event. And Steve, thanks for coming on our show and telling us about what happened to the fairgrounds in the last 3 weeks.
Yes, my pleasure to be here, Roger. Well, you know, we've heard a lot about the Oak Fire, and we saw a lot of photographs, a lot of moving pictures and updates, you know, through our local media. But at the county fairgrounds, Merced County Fairgrounds, the Cal Fire had set up a information, or what they call an incident command post, for the past 2 weeks. So shortly after the fire started, they realized that they needed to have much more space than what they could get at the Mariposa Fairgrounds, which is where they would normally have this ICP, Incident Command Post. But because of the need and the expectation this was going to be a much larger fire, they based themselves here in Merced. So for 2 weeks, we've had this little city operating on the fairgrounds. And as you have seen driving by, there's equipment from all over the state, or there was equipment from all over the state, and trailers with various aspects of fighting a wildfire. And that was being taken down Friday, and most of the equipment will be out of there by the end of the weekend, and as these people are deployed to other fires in the state. Ordinarily, the information officer I spoke to was a woman named Natasha Fouts, and she said that ordinarily the Mariposa Fairgrounds would handle something like this, but this was an extraordinary fire, and they were concerned early on that they wouldn't have the space to handle the kind of stuff they needed, the resources and the space. There's organizations that are directly related with fighting the fire, and then a lot of organizations that are coordinating with CAL FIRE as they work the fire. I attended a daily briefing which takes place at 7 a.m. every morning of the fire, and it goes on for about 35-40 minutes. About 20 different team leaders from various aspects of fighting wildfires come up and speak. They do very short reports, but they get through about 20 of these updates in the course of that half hour. And then the meeting's adjourned. Some of the firefighters go into some smaller committee meetings that they just have on the side inside the fairground exhibit hall this time around. And then they go and they have breakfast. They get their equipment ready to go. They've got ice and water and their lunch for the day. They're told when they go out to breakfast that this may be your only meal break of the day. So they make sure they power up with a big breakfast and a lot of stuff to take. So what I was impressed by with all of this, Roger, was that meeting, just the fact that exhibit hall, and any of you who have been in that exhibit hall know it's a huge facility, and it was just filled with firefighters and other people working the fire. And the precision in terms of how everything had a specific time. They were going to be out of there. They knew they couldn't spend all morning in a meeting. They had a much bigger job to do 50 miles away. So it was really impressive to see how it works. It kind of reminded me of a staff meeting at a large corporation where you might have speakers from various departments. My experience with that was that those speeches were much longer than this one. These folks were very focused on the task at hand, and to look around, I sat up in the media area, but I was sitting alongside firefighters. They were taking notes. They get a packet that I brought one with me. It's about a 40-page packet with various reports attached. So the speakers up front would make reference to, on page 36, you can see this, and these people would go through and look at it, make notes, and make plans for how they were going to attack this blaze. And as we now know, they did a very good job at that. I attended the briefings last week when there was still some uncertainty as to how long will this thing go on. In fact, the initial length of time the command post was going to be set up was supposed to be done within a week. And they were going to be out of there by the end of July. And then 2 days into the fire, they took that end date off of all the briefing materials, and Natasha Fouts explained to me, at this point we don't know yet how long we will be here. Fortunately, things worked in their favor and things got turned around relatively fast, and now that fire is practically fully contained. And as I mentioned before, some of these crews have been deployed to other parts of the state where there's, as we know, we're in the heat of wildfire season in California.
Yeah, there's not too much rest for those guys.
Not at all. And they use a system that I've seen, and it's done a lot in emergency situations. And I asked about it. They called it the the ICS, for Incident Command System, and it's a concept, a management concept that provides the structure for how you handle a thing of this magnitude, and
at a short period of time, do you have to make it all put together?
Exactly. And as one of the CAL FIRE people told me, the great thing about it, the incident command system, is that they can go anywhere in the system, anywhere in the state, and it's set up the same way. She said, I know exactly where the information trailer is. I know where the food area is. All of this stuff is set up, and everybody is set up ahead of time so that they can walk in and handle the job no matter where they are. It is supposed to remove all kinds of jurisdictional boundaries and barriers that come in, and it's been refined for over 20 years, so they pretty much have it down to a science as to how to make it work, and that is that was great to just observe that, as a member of the media in my limited capacity, but just to sit in, listen to the briefing, walk around and get a good look at just how extensive fighting a fire is without having to be worried, as most of us in the city of Merced, we didn't have to really worry about being evacuated or anything like that, but we were there to see what was happening and to take part in it and hopefully report the story to all of our readers and viewers.
You mentioned the enormity of the situation there at the Fairgrounds, and I understand they also had a staging area out at Castle Airport.
Yes, well, you could hear, I know we live in North Merced, and you could hear aircraft heading over there, and we assumed that's what that was all about, and of course it was to get the kind of equipment and fire retardants and all of that stuff that they take up into that area. Castle was
so the
used
aerial
as well.
part of the effort was probably all over there then.
Right. It was coordinated throughout that whole system.
I know Cheech and I walked around a little bit after our event, and the mess hall looked like it could seat 500 people if it could seat two. It looked it was like 2 or 3 big tents with long rows of tables and chairs on both sides.
Yes. I walked by the tents, and I could see they were full at that point. I could see a bunch of people in there, and then they had a huge, what I call a chow line, I guess, and they were loading up to get ready for the day. So, yeah, they handled a lot of people coming through Merced, and we were fortunate to be able to treat them well while they were here.
Well, thank you so much, Steve NEWVINE, our local author and contributor to events about Merced, for a great story about what was going on at the Fairgrounds that most people don't even realize.
KYOS Merced.